All right, ready to jump into this one. You guys wanted to know how to totally blow up online. And honestly, the sources you sent are kind of wild. We've got Mr. Beast basically giving away all his secrets. Then we're seeing Cristiano Ronaldo's competitive side. And then oh man, then there's iShow Speed.
It's like three totally different paths, right? You get carefully made videos, then you got that crazy live streaming energy. Yeah. By the end of this, you'll be able to spot the patterns that matter, like no matter what platform you're on.
Okay, so let's break this down. First up, we've got this article where Mr. Beast is basically dropping knowledge on how to conquer YouTube. I mean, the guy's built a whole empire over there, right? So his advice has got to be worth gold or something.
Yeah, for sure. And one thing that jumps out right away is how much he talks about just starting. Like he's straight up about those first videos.
Yeah.
The first 10 or so. They're probably going to be rough.
Yeah, I saw that part. Kind of brutal on camera. Thanks for the pep talk, Mr. Beast, but ouch.
Right. But I think the real point there is way deeper. It's not just about getting those early awkward attempts out of the way. It's about getting over that fear of not being perfect right away. So many people get stuck there, wanting everything to be amazing from the start, and then they never actually make anything.
It's so true. It's like you don't walk onto a basketball court and expect to be like LeBron James on day one. You got to practice, get those reps in, even if it looks messy at first.
Exactly. That's what he's getting at. Get those first 10 bad videos done, and then you start learning.
Okay, but then he says something kind of controversial. He says the algorithm isn't the problem, it's your content. Is he throwing shade at all the YouTubers out there?
Right. I might come across a little harsh, but I think he's making a good point.
Yeah.
Think about it. That algorithm is just a tool, right? It's meant to show people the stuff they'll actually click on and watch.
Yeah.
So if your videos aren't doing that, you got to look at what you're making, not just blame the system.
Yeah. So instead of trying to trick the algorithm, just focus on making something people want to see.
Yeah, exactly. And Mr. Beast really emphasizes the psychology of what makes content work. Titles, thumbnails, those first few seconds that hook people. They all got to tell a story before someone even hits play.
Oh, yeah. He gave this awesome example of a hook, something about an FBI agent, right?
Oh, yeah. That one was perfect. It was like, I tied up an FBI agent and gave him $100,000 to escape. Here's how it went. Come on. Who wouldn't click on that?
Seriously. It grabs your attention, makes you curious, and you instantly want to know what happens. But it's not just about being flashy or clickbaity, right? He actually delivers on that crazy promise.
Exactly. That's the key. It can't just be a gimmick. You got to back it up with content that keeps people engaged, keeps them wanting more.
Speaking of wanting more, Mr. Beast said something interesting about how one viral video can be better than 100 average ones. But do you think that applies to someone like iShow Speed? His whole thing is live streaming, which feels way different from those super produced videos Mr. Beast makes.
That's a really good point. It's like, are we comparing apples and oranges here? Mr. Beast is all about that super planned, high-quality content, And iShow Speed is about that raw, in-the-moment energy. It's like two sides of the same coin, both trying to blow up online, but going about it in totally different ways.
But those live streams are working for iShow Speed, big time. He gets over 1 million viewers on some of them. That's more than some NBA games get, which is insane.
I know, right? It's crazy. It shows he's tapped into something else, a different way of keeping people engaged. There's that real-time thing with live streams. You're watching it as it happens. And Speed always talks about how much he loves that, that anything could happen, the chaos. He's kind of embracing it.
Okay, but time for a little curveball now. Remember that article about Ronaldo where he's playing this, quote, guessing game? It seems kind of random, but I think it actually tells us something about his mindset, Maybe even about success in general.
Oh, definitely. It's not just about the game itself. It's the quotes they chose, the way they talk about competition. Remember that when Ronaldo said, "Nobody is better than me," at least off the pitch? That tells you a lot about him, right?
Yeah.
The drive, that belief in himself.
And then there was that Michael Jordan quote, something about how failure makes him work harder. Yeah, that's the kind of work ethic that gets you to the top.
For sure.
Yeah.
And it's not just about raw talent either. Tom Brady had a quote, too, about how talent wins games, but teamwork and intelligence win championships.
Yeah.
So even though we're talking about athletes, does that remind you of Mr. Beast at all? How he's always talking about his team, the planning, the learning from mistakes?
Totally. It's like Mr. Beast isn't just some lone wolf genius, right? He's got this whole team behind him. They're working together, constantly trying to make things better. It's a team effort.
Exactly. And that's huge no matter what you're trying to achieve, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's YouTube or sports or anything ambitious, it's about that individual talent, but also realizing you need a good team, a strategy, and you got to keep learning to get to that next level.
Okay, so back to iShow Speed for a minute, because
Yeah.
1 million people watching someone jump over a car, I mean, how does that even happen?
It's insane, right?
Yeah.
But that's kind of his thing, pushing boundaries, doing things that are like totally unexpected. He's definitely not playing it safe, and it's working.
Plus, he's doing these global tours now, streaming from all over the place. Remember that crazy stream from Indonesia? And the article said he got, like, mobbed by fans in Malaysia and Norway. It's wild.
Yeah, he's bringing that online energy into the real world, and it's creating this like feedback loop of excitement. What's interesting is that the article pointed out a key difference. Unlike a lot of YouTubers who fake their stunts, speeds are real, which is kind of scary, but also like adds to the whole thing, right? You never know what's going to happen.
And that's a big part of the appeal, right? It's that anything could happen vibe. You never know what you're going to see, which keeps people coming back for more.
Definitely. He's tapped into something primal, that fascination with the unpredictable, with chaos. And if you're thinking about live streaming, that's something to keep in mind. People love that authentic, real-time connection, like they're witnessing something special.
But it's not all good times, right? The articles mentioned how he's dealt with a lot of negativity online, too.
Yeah, that's the downside. Managing negativity is tough for anyone with a big online presence, and it seems like he's still figuring it out. It reminds us that even with these larger-than-life online personas, there are real people behind it all, dealing with the good and the bad that comes with fame and all that.
Okay, so we've got Mr. Beast being super strategic and iShow Speed embracing chaos. But does any of this actually guarantee you'll make it big online? It seems like everyone's trying to figure out the secret formula, but is it really that simple?
You're right. There's no magic bullet, no one-size-fits-all approach.
Yeah.
But what we do see from these guys is a few things that are really important.
Mhm.
And the first is like a deep understanding of their audience. Mr. Beast talks all about the psychology of like grabbing people's attention. And then Speed, he's got this super strong bond with his fans.
Right. It's not just knowing who your audience is, it's about giving them what you promise, right? Like Mr. Beast got those crazy high production videos, and Speed's bringing that raw, authentic energy. Totally different, but both deliver in their own way.
Exactly. And that kind of leads into the next thing. They're always evolving. Neither of these guys is just sitting back and, doing the same thing over and over.
Mm.
Mr. Beast is always pushing the limits, coming up with new ideas, trying to make each video better than the last one.
Right, and Steed's already talking about branching out, like doing new things, taking those live streams to even crazier locations. Like, how do you even keep up with all that?
I know. And I think that's the biggest lesson here. It's not about finding some secret code or like tricking the algorithm. It's about building something people actually want to be a part of, something they'll actually watch, share, and talk about.
So it's not about the algorithm, it's about the bigger picture, creating something valuable, making a real connection with your audience.
You got it. The algorithm's a tool, but it's not everything. What matters is building a strong foundation. Great content, genuine connection with your people, and always trying to get better.
Okay, I'm with you. But we're talking about some pretty extreme examples here, right? Mr. Beast with those elaborate sets and giving away like tons of money. And iShow Speed jumping over cars. Not everyone can pull that off or even wants to.
True, not everyone has to jump over a car to get noticed online.
Yeah.
But think about that metaphorically. What's your version of jumping over a car in your own thing? What can you do that'll make people go, whoa, I got to see this?
That's a good way to think about it. It's not about copying them. It's about finding your own way to stand out. Right.
Exactly. And don't forget consistency. Mr. B said every video should be better than the last, remember. Always pushing yourself, learning, and never settling for good enough.
So basically, there's no single path to making it online, but there are these common threads, these things that seem to matter.
Totally. And that's what makes it so interesting, right? No magic formula, but there are patterns you can see, lessons to learn, and you got to figure out how to apply those to your own thing, whatever you're trying to do.
So after all this, diving into Mr. Beast, Ronaldo, and iShow Speed, what stands out to you the most? What's the biggest takeaway?
Good question. I think for me, it's the reminder that success online isn't just about luck or the algorithm. It's about knowing your audience, delivering what you promise, and always evolving. It's about finding that balance between strategy and being genuine.
Yeah, that's a good point. We saw the super calculated approach with Mr. Beast and then Speed just embracing that chaos. And they're both killing it. So it's like there's this whole range, and you got to find what works for you somewhere on that spectrum.
Right. And that kind of brings up an interesting question for everyone listening. What if there's a middle ground? Could you combine Mr. Beast's strategic stuff with that raw energy that Speed has?
Whoa, that's interesting. We've seen those two extremes. But what happens when you blend them? It's like a recipe, right? You've got your core ingredients, knowing your audience, giving them value, and always getting better. But then you add your own spice to it.
I like that. It's about finding that mix that makes your content unique, but still connects with the people you're trying to reach.
That's what makes this whole online thing so cool, right? There's so many ways to do this, so many ways to connect and build something you care about.
Exactly. That's the beauty of it. It's always changing, always creating new opportunities to share your thing and connect with people.
So if you're listening and thinking about your own goals online, whether it's YouTube, streaming, or just making stuff you love, remember what we've been talking about. Don't be afraid to experiment, take risks, and find that mix of strategy and authenticity that works for you.
And most importantly, don't give up. It's rarely a straight shot to success online. There'll be tough times, setbacks, but if you're passionate, keep learning and keep going, you can do amazing things.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And that's a wrap on this deep dive. Hope you enjoyed exploring the world of online superstardom with us and can't wait to see what you create. Okay, so we've got this idea of finding that middle ground, right? Like mixing Mr. Beast's strategy with how I show speed just kind of goes with the flow. But how would that even work?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? I think you got to start by looking at what each of them is good at. Mr. Beast is all about planning, making sure everything looks amazing, that high quality stuff. And Speed, he's all about being real, connecting with people on that personal level.
Mm.
So it's how do you bring those together?
It's like you need a plan, right? You need to know what you're doing, who you're talking to, but then you can be ready for anything, those spontaneous moments that keep things interesting.
Right. It's that sweet spot between having a strategy but also being genuine, letting things happen organically. Imagine a YouTube channel that has those crazy Mr. Beast production values, but then throws in some of that unpredictable live stream energy that Speed has.
Oh, I see what you mean. So you've got those awesome sets, maybe even some stunts, but then you bring in like live Q&As or challenges that people vote on in real time.
Yeah, exactly. It's like taking the best parts of both and creating something totally new. It's not just copying, it's understanding why it works and then making it your own.
That's what's so cool about all this, right? There are so many different ways to succeed online, so many ways to connect with people and build something you're proud of.
Totally. And as the lines between, traditional media and online stuff keep blurring, it's just going to get even more interesting. We'll see more and more of these hybrids popping up, blending different styles and personalities.
That's exciting to think about. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you want our listeners to take away from all this? Like the most important piece of advice as they start their own journey online?
Hmm. Don't be afraid to try things out, to be different. And most importantly, don't be afraid to be yourself. That realness, that authenticity, that's what people connect with online. No algorithm can fake that.
That's so true. So to everyone listening, as you're working on your own goals online, remember what we talked about. Knowing your audience, delivering on your promises, always getting better. But then add your thing to it, your own personality and your own story.
And have fun with it. If you're not enjoying it, it'll show. Find what makes you excited to create and let that passion drive you.
Great advice. And on that note, that wraps up our deep dive into the world of online superstardom. Thanks for joining us, and we can't wait to see what you create.